Are you ready to unleash your full potential and become unstoppable in your success and leadership?
Welcome to the Unleashed and Unstoppable podcast, where we provide powerful insights and strategies for coaches, corporate leaders, and entrepreneurs. I'm Alexanne Carter.
And I'm Carol Register, and we're certified master neurocoaches who are passionate about helping you overcome your limiting beliefs and optimize your performance.
Each week, we'll be sharing actionable tips and strategies using neuroscience, from interviews with industry experts to solo episodes, to help you lead a life of power, purpose, and possibility on your own terms.
Join our community of like-minded individuals. Hit subscribe now, and let's be unleashed and unstoppable together. Hey, it's so great to be back with you. We are excited to be here each and every week to bring you the most fantastic neuroscience knowledge. Now, this is not about the latest research. This is about practical tips that you can apply today that are a part of well-documented process that it is about. Where I was trying to say it's not about the ongoing research, and then I got tongue-tied, but it's about, because there's a lot of research out there that is coming in, it's about well-researched processes that we know work right now. And we love bringing this to you, all about leadership, health, wealth, in these things for you to live a beautiful, abundant life that you absolutely deserve. You deserve it because you are here on this planet. You matter, you're valuable. And today we're leaning into some deeper aspects or some different aspects about your wealth and financial journey, right? Because we often are stuck. We find ourselves stuck, and we just don't know why. Like, we've come so far. We have made abundance, and we're like, what's going on? Why can't I get over this hurdle, right?
Like, we think we've done all the things, right? It's like,
Yeah.
But I read all the books and I did all the things and I followed all the things I was told to do.
Yeah. And you're like, I don't understand what the blockage is, what is still not clearing the path. And especially when we see the evidence all around of the people who are making it, who are doing really well, and we can maybe even think of celebrities and coaches and producers. And I love Amy Porterfield, for example. We could throw out several names. And it's so important to know that it all starts here. It all starts here.
In the brain.
This is it. This is the foundation. And sometimes what I've found, Alex, in my journey is that knowing all this stuff, I can still lag upon the way. And as a recovering perfectionist, I can get into the idea that, if I just do X, then Y is going to result, right? But I'm not realizing the way that our beautiful brains and bodies, our subconsciouses, work together, even in that process.
It's going another level, right? So if you're saying X plus Y equals Z, well, you've got, what's the letter before? It's a W, right? It's like, you got to think of the belief behind the action that you're going to take and with the decision to create that result, right? And I think that is the missing piece, is that a lot of times it's the doing. We're doing all these things, but hold on. And I know on our most recent episode, we talked about the identity when it comes to the identity of wealth. How do you see yourself? But how are you making decisions from that place? And what do you believe? Are you allowing the beliefs and patterns from past experiences and childhood impacting and influencing how you're going ahead and making that decision? Or are you really, if you're embodying that 6-7 figure, persona, that identity piece, how are they making those decisions? How are they taking that action? And I know that's what we're going to unpack a little bit more today, and like going deeper, right? Really getting deep into like what is contributing, right? So it's not, as much as we want it to be X plus Y equals Z, right? There's a little more complex to that, which of course is why why you do the work that you do, Carol, right? I mean, even why I
Mhm.
do my work, I know I've shifted more into the web agency, but guess what? Even though I'm doing more websites and helping people increase their visibility now,
Yeah.
it all stems from neuroscience. You have no idea how much neurocoaching I get to do in the space of like digital visibility and web design. Like it's
Yes.
fascinating, which is what's so fun when you go back to the fundamentals, right?
Right. And I think, you brought up a really important point that we can turn the belief work that we're doing into strategy.
Mm-hmm.
And here's
Yeah.
how that sabotages us. So the brain automatically goes to the how. We're always looking, because of our survival wiring, for solutions to problems and for how do we make this happen. And it's our first default. And when you recognize the how as your first default, you can start to realize why you have been blocked over and over by trying to get into the next strategy. What is this strategy?
Mm-hmm.
What is this strategy? What is this strategy? How's this going to get me
Mm-hmm.
to Z, right?
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is that if we're not going internal to change the belief system, then we'll continue to have the blockage with the strategy. I also thought you brought up something else very important, and that is that as we grow, as we do the rewiring process, we're changing that internal default system.
Mm-hmm.
We're changing what's wired into the subconscious to no longer be the limiting beliefs, but to be the success beliefs. No longer to be the lies, but to be the truth.
Yeah.
And I think that's a key component too, because many people go, "Oh, I'm teaching myself to believe a lie." No, no, no.
Yeah.
You've been believing the lie. You're
It's the other way
now,
around. It's looking at the truth, right? Like, so
yeah,
what just
yeah,
an example, right? Because I mean, you and I both see this a lot about like, you got to work hard to be successful.
yes,
Got to work hard to be successful. Why am
yeah,
I such a stand for ending burnout? Because of that false belief.
yeah,
Like, but we believe that we have to work hard to be successful. Therefore, that impacts the decisions we make and we overwork ourselves. So
right.
going back to like really looking at, okay, what does it take to work to break through from 6 or 7 figures?
Yeah,
Let me ask you this, Carol. Is it about working harder to break that? I know, I know we did say there's technically there isn't really an invisible ceiling, but we feel like there's a ceiling, right?
well, I
Break
think it's a
through.
great example. Yeah, I think it's a great example because that second piece is that we can, as we're up leveling, then we're going to be in the discomfort zone again
Mm-hmm.
because it's inherent to the way that we're wired that we're in a discomfort zone with growth because our beautiful brains are protecting our whole sophisticated subconscious systems. Our brains and our bodies are. Subconscious is in the body as well as the brain. So amazing, right? That so when the brain is protecting whatever is familiar, because the brain sees that as keeping the system safe. That's brain safety, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
part of our survival mechanics. It's important to recognize that as you go deeper in the work of abundance, which is a highly charged, highly emotional issue, that you're going to have deeper networks there and you're going to be experiencing discomfort along the way. So when you're all of a sudden in those moments of seeming self-doubt, of seeming, oh no, I'm not getting this right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, I'm not working hard enough. And all of that's hitting you. You can take a pause and you can go, okay, this is brain resistance. I'm doing the work. And we give you specific tools to know how to get through brain resistance. It is temporary. And you can embrace that discomfort, knowing Alex and you and I have talked about the breakdown leads to breakthrough.
Mm-hmm.
It's so powerfully important to understand that. And it's so powerfully important to know that you're on the right track. You're
Yeah.
actually doing the right thing. The work is happening because your brain's going, oh, this is not safe. Let's get you back over to the safety zone, right? Let's get you back over. And that highly emotional, highly charged part of money is super important to recognize because when we have strong emotion associated with a thought, it creates a deeper groove in our
Mm,
beliefs and in our
yeah.
networks. Like you think back of childhood memories, you probably have the strongest ones around strong emotional events, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it's important to know again that you're on the right track when you're starting to rewire and program in that you are not in lack, you are not in scarcity, you are in abundance presently, right now. I am so happy and grateful that I am abundant, right?
So what happens in that moment though, Cal? Because we also know that, okay, the subconscious is like this program with the scarcity, which is part of the habit of breaking. And
Yeah.
now you're saying to yourself, you're abundant. Like I mean, of course I have the answer, but I'm really curious for you to
Yeah.
like in that moment, how are you staying grounded in the abundance? Like what in well, of course I'm going to the evidence piece, right? My brain's
Yeah.
like, well, what evidence are you
That's
now giving to your
exactly.
brain,
Yeah.
right? That you are abundant. Guys, I think this is what's really important to
Yeah.
acknowledge, right? Again, we got to be careful. We don't want to be priming in something or saying something that's not true, right? It's and we are
Yeah.
saying like you are abundant, but the
Yeah.
brain's default is to say that you're not abundant or to go to all
Right.
the beliefs of scarcity. So
Right.
in those moments to support that your brain doesn't go this
Yeah.
way and to create that cognitive bias
Yeah.
and dissonance, I for you, Carol, I'm just curious for you, what do you say to yourself in that moment? Because it's more than just I'm abundant. It's I'm abundant and showing your brain that here are all the places and ways
Yeah.
that you are abundant.
Exactly. That's it. That's the answer. I mean, you said it. It's providing your brain with the evidence that you are abundant. Now,
Yeah.
when you're thinking about going even farther than you've ever been for before, or your family or your partner with your finances, this is where it's something where you can use the evidence of other people.
Mm-hmm.
So, is it human? Is it possible? Is my mentor doing this? I'd like to be like Oprah, for example. We often limit ourselves and just subconsciously, it's a protection mechanism. So, you can literally ask yourself that question. Am I limiting myself? Whose evidence can I borrow to be at, eight figures, for example? This doesn't even seem possible or within my realm, but is it humanly possible? Are people doing it? Is there a way? Yes. So that's strategy, right? But
Mm-hmm.
it's also evidence that it is being done and it's possible for you too. And that's something that's very important to remember with your own abundance, with your own evidence. Where have I been or experienced abundance in my life? And you can start to look at maybe it was a childhood visit to, a friend who had the kind of financial abundance that you'd like to experience, the kind of house you'd like to experience, the resort, the vacation that you'd like to experience, the cruise, and you can also look at it in terms of not things, but
Mm.
experiences. Have I lived internationally? What kind of adventures have I done? What about out on the ball field? When did I take the shot on goal? Um, there are a lot of experiences that you can add in that are wonderful to be used to build your financial evidence, which is amazing, right?
Well, and we said a couple episodes ago, right? What you focus on grows. And so when you shift into that and looking at the abundance that surrounds you, you'll start to see it, right? You're activating your reticular activating system. You will
Yeah.
see the abundance, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's the tiniest thing. I think I once listened to an abundant meditation at one point, and I remember just the the person at the time was like, if you imagine you're in a room, well, look around you and you see all the space, right? And that's air, and air is something. And so when you look at
Mhm.
the space around you, well, there's an abundance of air, there's an abundance of space, right? And so it was just kind of like becoming just aware of your environment as
Yeah.
well. If you look outside and maybe you see an abundance of trees, or there's abundance of water, or just really leaning into what are you surrounded by, right? You're surrounded by the abundance of love, but just again opening up,
Yeah.
looking not just physical as you were saying, like actual things, but just looking at the space, looking at all the buildings, having your focus out onto what are things that multiply, and what is that to
Mm.
support, and kind of stepping into that. And I always remember that, like I kind
Yeah.
of, it's like one of the ones that I go back to, like if I start to feel that, it's like, okay, look around me, and I've got, there's all this space, and there's all that, and like, to just kind of
Yeah.
expand a little bit, right? Because scarcity is very here, and we want to become expansive when it
Mm.
comes to being abundant
And
um,
multiplying.
and
Yeah.
multiplying. Yeah.
It's one of the things that I talk about in my Principles of Wealth program, which is included in the month long, I mean, sorry, 12-month long exclusive program that is reopening now. We've just ended a cycle. We're reopening it. It is an exclusive invite. So please get on the call with me and let's talk about how we can accelerate you to seven and multi-seven figures. It is entirely possible. And the trees, right? Go outside and try when a tree is in full bloom. Don't go to a winter tree. I'm sorry, with all the leaves off, but go to a tree blooming in spring and try to count the leaves on it. Try to count the leaves on
Mhm.
one branch
Yeah.
and try to count the blades of grass
I
in
was just
one
thinking that too. The blades of
square
grass. Yeah.
of grass or in one bush, and pretty quickly we start to see that abundance is all around us. And those are great ways, as we were talking about the IRS, I mean, the RAS, that you will be able to, activate it by
Hmm.
doing things like looking at the space, considering that it's abundant, it's everywhere. We don't even know what over 80% of dark matter and energy is in our universe, right? And so going out and looking at the sky or looking at it on a starry night and just sitting in that abundance and sitting in the
Hmm.
abundance of the stars in the
Well,
heaven.
and when you're saying about the stars, I always, you'll go and you'll notice one star, right? You might just notice the one star, and then you might notice the second one, and then you'll notice, and then before long, you'll start to see a lot more stars.
Yeah.
Again, that's a great example of the RAS being connected with the stars, where you might just see that one bright star, and it starts to expand and expand and expand. And I always remember experiencing that, just sort of
Yeah.
starting, you don't really see much, but the more that you stare at the stars in the sky, you more it opens up, and the more you might see that one planet, and then you notice the other planet. And so I love that as an experiment, right? To,
Mm-hmm.
on a non-cloudy evening as well, to hone into that, because like you said,
Yeah.
abundance really is all around you. It's what we focus on grows, where we put the energy. And so really, like, if I know anything about a lot of, 6, 7, 8
Yeah.
figure earners, is like they make quick decisions,
Yes.
and they
Yes.
move quickly, because of just really embodying and with that identity, and the way that they are not holding on to that scarcity so much, of
Yeah.
that fear. They're able to release the fear, and they move forward. But I was really curious to know, Carol, when working and supporting those women really break through over to that seven figure
Yeah.
piece, what are some of the most common limiting beliefs that you notice that they tend to experience, that really, like, when they
Mhm.
do the deep work? Because this is what we're talking about here. We're doing the deep work
Right.
when they're finally committed to doing the deep work and really shifting these beliefs, that is what helps them catapult over to that
Yeah.
next, I guess.
Well, bottom line, it always goes back to identity, which we've
Yeah.
just, talked about. And go back and listen to those episodes that we have, the past two or three to really help support you. I think we did one on brain priming. We've got one on the RAS. We've got one on the identity work of wealth. And, um, you know, the the most common go back to identity. However, built on that foundation, quite often it's that I have to hustle. And
Mm,
then they're really stuck in burnout. It's, I have to get this right. I have to do it
mm,
perfectly. It's, I have to work hard. It's, I have to suffer. It's, I have to, there's something in us that's like, when we think about prices to pay, we think about self-sacrifice and suffering rather than maybe wanting to pay the price of giving up our self-doubt, giving up our, our belief that we have to be tied down. And that it doesn't come easy. And I mean, we get these messages everywhere. I just went through a labor with one of my girls, and it was hard work. There's no way around that. So we enter into the world that way, but then we can carry that forward as a belief that
mhm,
everything has to be hard work.
mhm,
And I would say, there's quite a lot, and it depends on what you've heard, but a lot of times we're ignoring our finances. We may have grown up hearing money doesn't grow on trees or you can't
mhm.
afford that. So you've had the practices and principles in place that have allowed you to succeed financially. And yet, when you're wanting to go to the next level, you're not realizing that some of these are down there deep that you can actually reprogram, rewrite these so that you can take your next steps and grow.
I also noticed there's quite a conviction, right? The way that someone's like, once they cross over, there's just something in the way of their being and the way they're
Yeah,
showing up, right? Kind of goes back to like they move quickly because they don't overthink.
right.
They don't find themselves in guilt. Like they just
Not
they like,
overcomplicating it.
yeah, they take the
Yeah,
lesson and they move, right? Like,
right.
okay, like they're not afraid to fail and they don't have fear stand in their way. Like that's just sort of my,
Mhm.
observation experience. And the relationship with money. I mean, you said this on the previous episode, right? That was sorry, that we recently published about that relationship and with ourselves is the same thing, right? Looking at the
Yeah,
relationship with money. And just and like, just seeing money as something that's very fluid,
yeah,
right? And when we are, again, it's that scarcity piece of really holding on tight, that's what's going to happen. But when you see that money is fluid, I mean, okay, I mean, I don't know if we want to go there. Talk about the stock market right now, right? Like talk about fluidity, right? Like,
yeah.
I mean, you just like if that's the route that you choose to go and like
Mhm.
you have a trust. There's a trust
Yeah.
there. You're trusting. Like, I mean, yeah, that's the reality right now. And it'll, and you just
It
you're
ebbs
trusting
and
surrender to that.
flows. It
Yeah.
ebbs and
Yeah.
flows.
But
Yeah.
if you operate over here with that fear of, I guess, the ebb and
Oh
flow, right?
no. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
then this is where you stay. And I mean, I don't know if, well, not everyone can see that I've got my hands clenched right now.
Yeah.
This is exhausting. So to be able to just
Yeah.
trust and surrender in the ebbs and flow, and you just, you ride the wave, like if you're
Yeah.
surfing, or
Yeah.
I'm thinking of, oh no, I took the girls tubing. Well, I guess that wasn't really why. Well, there's some bumps. You ride the bump, right? Or like a roller
Yeah.
coaster, it goes up and it goes down. But it goes up and it goes down and it goes up
Yeah.
again. Like just knowing that it ebbs and flows. But I think there's a healthy point to that versus
Yeah.
having it all and losing. I think that's a different pattern because that's a pattern we want to break. There's
Right.
understanding flow and then having that trust
Yeah.
because it's a different energy. But this high and low and like that you just have it and you don't have it, you have it and you don't have it. What do you
Mm.
notice there? Those
It's
that tend to really repeat that cycle over and over again. How do they shift out of that?
Yeah.
I mean, we know about the work, but I'm just curious if there's a certain belief that you notice, right? And then I'm like, listen in, because if you have these beliefs, like this is why Carol does the work that she does, because
Yeah.
it's about going deep to be able to identify it, neutralize and erase it. That's why I'm curious for Carol what she's noticing as some commonalities, because
Yeah.
sometimes we don't even realize it that we have this belief, but we don't realize this is a belief that could really be sabotaging the success that we're creating and the wealth that we're creating. That's why I'm always curious,
Yeah.
the patterns of like, this is the, if you've got this, like, here's
The awareness
yeah.
is the I will say with taking action, you want to learn how to take calculated risks.
Mm,
So that's really important. It's important to know, that just because you are leaving your money set in a savings account, which is what some people, even at very high levels, have done, that it is just as risky, if not more so, than taking the action of making an investment that can multiply your funds. But when you're doing that, there are certain principles you can follow. I am not a financial advisor. I am merely an educator. This is my opinion. But you're taking a percentage to invest that you can safely lose. You're not going to lose the rent in your apartment or
yeah.
your housing or so on. And so when you've been practicing the courage steps that go
Mm,
along, you're building your confidence because you are keeping promises to yourself, build your
mm,
confidence. So
right.
you're
Yeah.
starting with your identity, your worthiness, you're building your confidence on uh, with courageous acts, and it does take courage. And again, those are calculated risk. It might be something like getting on a stage and speaking or utilizing your voice or whatever it might be. But what happens then with that foundation, and then you're building the reprogramming on top of that, is you're creating this mountain that you're climbing up, right? And there's a peak up here, and you're inevitable to get there. And so that's one of the exciting things. You can start to program in beliefs around how you want to deal with the ebb and flow, how you
Mm,
want to deal with the risk, what kind of speed you want to act with. Everything is a thought, everything. So
yeah.
everything is programmable, and we often forget that along the way. And I also want to just touch on one more thing, back with one of the deeper issues that we deal with is shame and guilt around
Hmm.
money. We get
Yeah.
into those feeling guilty for mistakes that we've made. One of my clients that is wealthy had to deal with the fact that she was punished over money as a child, quite a significant and frightening way. And so then she's carried this forward into all the decisions that she was making without an awareness. And a lot of what was happening was this idea that she had to prove herself with consumer goods
Mm,
rather than
mm,
with utilizing what she had to multiply, where she could buy three or more of,
yeah.
said consumer goods. But bottom line, it was, I invite you to take a look and to ask yourself if you've got shame and guilt. And sometimes it's just taking that one small action step to make a change that you want to take that will really bring clarity. It's a bridge into the subconscious, and we've talked about this on other episodes that will help you to uncover, hey, what's holding me back right now? Well,
Yeah.
what can I do to have awareness of what's going on here?
Like
Yeah,
what's coming to me right now is like, if you're listening to this and this really resonates, or you have a certain thought or belief that come up, send us a message. You have the capacity, or capability in the show notes. There's a little button that says text us. Click that button and send us a message. Say, this really lands, this really resonates. This is the thing that I'm really struggling with. Can you speak more into this? I would say a lot of our episodes come from people who have shared topics that they'd like us to dive into, uncover a little bit more, questions from clients. Like, this is how we really want to support you with what's coming up for you. And so send us a text message or connect on Instagram, send us a message there. We want to support you because you don't know what you don't know. And Carol and I both discovered about our brains and how this happens by listening to a podcast, right? Just like you're listening to our podcast today. So share the podcast with other people that you find would really benefit from what we're speaking into. We are a stand for your greatness, and we really want to really help you be able to identify what is blocking you, what is stopping you, so that you can be unleashed and unstoppable, right? It's all about being unleashed and unstoppable. And it's by being able to learn more about your brain. How is it keeping you safe? And how is it not serving in what you're up to creating, right? And it's these subtle little things really that could be impact you from going from 6 to 7 figures, right? Or creating that 10 out of 10 relationship with your partner, maybe moving to that other part of the world, or buying, a resort hotel somewhere in Chile, right? It's that it's fascinating. Your brain's job is to keep you safe. And that's why we do the work that we do, because we want to support you in working through that and being empowered to be able to use your beautiful brain, and also creating the visions, the life, the wealth that you want to create. So thank you for tuning in to another episode. Grab the wealth activation. It's in the show notes. Contact Carol if you feel like, oh my goodness, I really am ready to work with her to see if you're a good fit. And of course, if you are expanding your visibility, connect with me and we can chat about being able to build a high converting website that'll attract more of your ideal clients and help you get seen by, the people that you impact. So thank you for tuning in this week.
Love you guys. Ciao for now. See you next week.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Unleashed Unstoppable podcast with your hosts, Alexandra Carter and Carol Register.
If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review, and subscribe.
That's all for this episode, Wildly Ambitious Leaders. See you next week.